What my reporting uncovered was the reason for that lobotomy was not, as the Kennedys would later claim, a hopeless attempt to overcorrect for Rosemary's alleged mental deficits, but because Joe, the father, had been sexually abusing Rosemary.
Kennedy's problematic history with women has, of course, been documented over many years. So, what made you want to examine this subject anew now?
Well, the stories of these women has never been told quite this way before, and there is a lot of new information that I uncovered. I should preface this by saying the book is written like a novel, so that the reader is always in the hearts and heads of these women. The galvanizing force behind this book really actually was the conviction in New York City of Harvey Weinstein on multiple counts of rape by a jury composed of more men than women who had heard very complicated testimony from these accusers who claimed Weinstein had raped them, but who then had stayed in very friendly communication with him after said rapes. That's when I thought this culture has completely shifted and it's time for these women to be heard.
Mm. And you've said, that you write it sort of presents like a novel, and you say that you've taken some creative license in the book. Just tell us how that, how much can we believe of what's in the book?
Oh, of course, you can believe all of it. I spent 3 years extensively researching, doing original reporting. The creative license comes in the form of being in the heads of these women. So, for example, when I'm talking about what Jackie Kennedy is thinking and feeling in the seconds and minutes and hours after the assassination, that's all been documented in various places before, but it's never really been pulled together in this way.
Mm. And just tell us a little bit more about what you found out, because you talk about a negative life force. Those are the words you use that was passed down by Joseph Kennedy to his sons. Just explain some of the story around that and the sort of his influence on his sons.
His influence was profound, gravitational, evil. I consider his personal biblical original sin to be the lobotomization of his beautiful, vibrant daughter, Rosemary, in her early 20s. What my reporting uncovered was the reason for that lobotomy was not, as the Kennedys would later claim, a hopeless attempt to overcorrect for Rosemary's alleged mental deficits, but because Joe, the father, had been sexually abusing Rosemary
Mm,
and she was acting out and he needed to shut her up.
mm. I mean, reading your book, it does sort of beg the question why the sort of mythology around the Kennedy family has endured for so long.
It's ironic that the principal architect of that mythology was, in fact, Jackie Kennedy, who, after the assassination, felt compelled to memorialize her husband's administration and their marriage as quote unquote Camelot.
Mm.
And in doing so, she wrought untold harm, really, to the girls and women who came after her, especially with the American media, who really refuses to kind of fully renounce this myth.
Mm. And it's, the Kennedys they're obviously not center stage now, but they are still in American politics, as we saw, only last week, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Dropped out of the presidential race and endorsed Donald Trump. You write about the suicide of his wife, Mary, in 2012. Tell us what you can about that.
It's to my great consternation that the American media will not ask Bobby Kennedy Jr. about what he did to his wife, Mary Richardson, who he gaslit and psychologically tormented until she committed suicide. Her therapist spoke to me and told me that Bobby came to a session one day and said to her therapist, I want you to declare my wife mentally ill.
Hmm.
That's Kennedy Playbook 101. To add insult to injury, after she died, a week after burying her, Bobby had her coffin dug up secretly from the Kennedy family plot and reburied 700 feet away alone.
Mm. I mean, it's sort of extraordinary, isn't it? Do you think that Donald Trump should be distancing himself from this endorsement?
It's so interesting because in the beginning of the book, I talk about how it's not political, it's not partisan. And I reference Donald Trump's atrocious statement, the grab them by the pee statement, which horrifies. We're not really talking about people who put women front and center. But to your question about the Kennedys still being something of a political force, even though Bobby Kennedy Jr. had no chance of ever becoming president, who he endorsed does matter. What votes he's going to draw from his following to his endorsed political candidate, they do matter. And the Democrats in America are kind of freaking out right now that a Kennedy has endorsed a Republican.
Mm. And where do you think all of this leaves Republican women? Because you've written about the cult of Kamala, as you put it. She's reaching out to Republican never Trumpers. Do you think she might succeed in attracting quite a few of them, particularly women?
Kamala's only going to succeed if she can get down on specifics, on policy proposals, on her direction for and vision for this country. She gave her first interview to CNN last night, completely calorie free. Women aren't simply going to vote for a woman because of her gender. We saw that with Hillary Clinton in 2016.
And to be fair to Kamala Harris, she's not leaning into being, the first female president if she won.
I think that's by design. I think she has been told that it's not going to sway voters and may in fact turn them off.
Mm.
I mean, the fact of the matter is, in America, we're seeing corporations and institutions by the day dumping DEI policies. She cannot run as a DEI president.
Mm. That's diversity policies. I mean, just finally, then, just to sort of reiterate, really, we're talking about Republican women and where they go. You're clearly not a fan of Kamala Harris in your comments there, but there's a choice between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, who's been found liable for sexual assault.
I couldn't disagree with you. I couldn't agree with you more. These are not great choices. As it was when Biden was in the race, Americans were literally like, these are our choices. Kamala comes in. Yes, it's new energy. Yes, it's a younger face, but the past 3.5 years have not been great for the American middle class. And she needs to prove that she is up to the job.
But just by being not Trump and being kind of not weird, isn't that enough?
I think we deserve more. I think we deserve more. Kamala right now is running as a figurehead. That's what she's running as. And listen, I think America is long overdue for a female president. It's insane that other Western democracies have had them, and we have yet to break that glass ceiling. But, I just think you cannot run on your gender.
Mm. Maureen Callahan, fascinating stuff. Thank you very much for joining us. That's Maureen Callahan, who is author of the Sunday Times bestseller, Ask Not, The Kennedys and the Women They Destroyed.